Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. Today, to celebrate the end of National Serger Month, I'm going to do a tutorial showing you how to thread your serger for a cover hem, how to take the table or how to take the knife blade cover off and put the table attachment on, something you need when you're doing the cover stitches. Just between you and me, when I first got my Baby Lock Ovation Serger, I was tugging at the covers trying to get them off and on, and it was very frustrating until I referred to the manual and discovered how easy it was. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to talk about the knee lift. These are three topics that were questions from subscribers, so I thought I could, gather them up in one tutorial and just share these things with you. Unfortunately, I can't find my knee lift for my serger, but I will talk about it and refer to the manual to explain how to attach it and use it. All right, so before we get started with threading the serger for a cover hem, I just want to show you some decorative techniques you can do with the cover stitches. I taught this class for pattern review last month, and I'm showing you, or it takes advantage of the underside of the stitch. Normally when you see the cover hem, you see 1, 2, or 3 rows of stitching depending on whether you're doing a chain stitch, which is 1 needle, a cover stitch, narrow or wide, which is 2 needles, either the left and center or right and center, or the left and right needle, or the triple cover hem, which uses all 3 needles. So in this class, I showed how to take advantage of the underside with some decorative threads to create some surface embellishment. So I just want to show you here. This is what the underside of the chain stitch looks like. And it's 1 needle and the chain looper. Then we have the narrow cover hem. And that is either the left and center needle or the center and right needle with the chain looper and some decorative thread. Here I have the wide cover hem, which is the left and right needle with the chain looper. Whoops, this one, sorry. And you can see it makes these little V's in the center back and forth between the needles. And then if you add the third needle, you get the triple cover hem, and that is the 3 needles with the chain looper. So you can see you can get some really pretty effects by using different weights and colors of your decorative threads, and so you're putting the underside of the stitch on the right side of your fabric. This is just a little inspiration for you, so when you thread up your machine for a cover hem, you can hem things, or you can also do some surface embellishment. All right, now let's set up our serger for a cover hem, and then also I'll show you how to thread it. Okay, so here is the front of my serger. I'm going to turn it on, and right now it's set up for a overlock stitch. If I put the covers down, you can see that I have the knife is up, the needles are in the back position for the overlock stitches, and the upper looper is up. So we have to do a few things to the serger before we start threading. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to take off the knife blade cover so we can put the table on in a second. When you open the cover, you're going to see this little tab right here. There's 3 ridges on it. If you press that tab and pull, the cover comes off really easily. And then it also just goes right back in. Now notice, if I try to pull it out without pressing on the tab, it does not come out. So make sure you press that tab, and then you can see it easily comes right off. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my blade down. Okay, and I think you can see this little knob right here is the knob that disengages and engages the knife. So I'm going to turn that away from me, and you can see the knife is now in the down position. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the hand wheel until the upper looper is in the down position. Then I'm going to select down here, and that's going to lock my upper looper in the down position. So if I turn the hand wheel, notice everything moves except the upper looper. The reason why we want to put the knife down and the upper looper down is because when we put the table attachment on, if those two things were engaged, they'd hit the table. So to put the table on, I'm just going to line up the ridges in the tab with the place where you insert it here. I know you're not going to be able to see it because the table's in the way, but basically you just snap that in. The table attachment works exactly like the cutting blade cover. You're going to press that little tab to take it off, and you're going to insert that tab to put it on. So I know it's hard to see because the actual table is in the way. I'm going to press the tab and just take it off easily, and I'll reattach it after I finish threading the rest of the machine. So now we've got the settings correct, or we've put down the things we need to disengage. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needles out and I'm going to move them into the cover hem position. So remember, you can change your stitch depending on if you want to do a chain stitch, a narrow cover hem, a wide cover hem, or a triple cover hem. The only thing you have to do to switch between those stitches is change your needle position and your needle threading. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to do a wide cover hem here. So I'm going to put one needle in the front left or C1 position and tighten it down. And then I'm going to put the second needle in the C3 position, or the right needle position. And you want to make sure you're inserting your needles all the way up until you see the top of the needle in the little window. That's how you know your needles are inserted properly. All right, so you can see now I've got my needles inserted in the right position. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to engage the air feeding system by selecting threading over here. Notice what happens over here. I'm going to turn it to threading and watch how the little air tubes extend. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my hand wheel towards me very slowly until the air feed tubes snap closed. So just watch right here very carefully. I'm going to go slow. Okay, so see how that's locked? Once it locks, I can't turn my hand wheel anymore. So now I've engaged the air feed. So the first thing I'm going to thread is the chain looper. Now the chain looper is here. The first step is to put the thread through this thread guide here on the side of the machine next to the tension unit. So I'm just going to stick that in there, and I'm going to pull it directly to the back. So when I put it through the hole, it's going to come to the back like this. Then I'm going to drop the thread down so it's behind this little triangle shaped guide at the bottom, like that. Then with the thread caught behind this guide, I'm going to come up and over the tension unit. Okay, so that's how you thread the start of the chain looper through the tension unit right there. Okay, after you go around the tension unit, just tuck it in this little guide right here under the tension unit. And now we're ready to air feed it through the needle. So what I'm going to do here is, you'll notice there are 3 ports, C, L, and U. C is for chain looper. So I'm just going to take the thread and I'm going to stick it into the chain looper port so we can thread the looper. I'm going to press the button and notice how the thread just whizzed through. So where did that go? Let's look. I'm going to open the side door here, and you can see over here on the side there's a little cup, and I've got about 4 inches of a tail here, And that's what you want. So you're just going to leave that in that little cup or that little space. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to shut that. So now my chain looper is threaded. The next step is to thread the needles. So over here, before I do that, I'm just going to show you a couple other things here. I'm going to disengage the threading, and it's going to open my air feed tubes, which will allow me to turn my hand wheel. So now that I've disengaged, you can see I can now turn my hand wheel again. Before I put the table on, I'm just going to thread my needles. I'm going to start with my left needle, and I'm going to turn the serger to the back so you can see the first thread guide after you come across the antenna. These thread guides are little clips, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your thread and you're going to hold the tail in your right hand, and you're just going to press the thread so it goes into the short little groove right there, and then bring it forward. I'm going to go ahead and do my right needle as well. So again, I'm going to have my tail in my right hand. I'm just going to insert it here and then press it until it clicks into that short groove. If you're having trouble getting your thread to go into these grooves, like if you're pressing and you're breaking your thread, I have a tutorial showing how to loosen up this thread guide to make it easier to get it into the thread guide. I will put a link to that below this video so you can check that out if you're having trouble with this. All right, so let's turn the machine around now. When you're doing that, make sure your presser foot is up, because your tension discs are open when your presser foot is up, and the thread will go into the tension discs. When you put the presser foot down, it clamps on the thread and gives you good tension. So always make sure your presser foot is up when you're threading through your tension guide, your tension discs. So these threads are now going to wrap under this guide and then up and over, and I'm just going to do them both together like this. I've got my left needle thread in my left hand and my right needle thread in my right hand. So now I can bring the left needle thread off to the side. There's a little thread guide on the side of the needle bar, so that's good there. And then I'm going to bring the right thread to the thread guide in front like this. So now I've separated my threads and I'm ready to thread my needles. So now I'm going to put my presser foot down and I'm just going to thread my needles. So I'll thread my right needle. I'm just going to pull that directly to the back. And then I'm going to, oops, let me put this back here. Right, then I'm going to thread my left needle. The other thing you're going to notice is when you go from left to right, the needle tip gets higher. So just to show you here, see how the left needle is lower than the right needle? It's supposed to be that way. All right, now I'm going to lift my presser foot up and I'm going to put the threads underneath the presser foot and off to the right like that. So now I'm going to insert this tab on the table into this guide right here to attach the table. Now I'm all set up for my cover hem. The next thing I just want to review is how to adjust your tensions for a cover hem. I like to start on 5 for my needle threads. That's sort of the middle of the road tension setting. If my stitch needs adjusting, I can tighten or loosen my needle threads here. And then over here, I'm just going to turn the machine around to the side again. This tension guide gives you an indication for cover stitches or chain stitches. So I'm going to make sure the little gold line is aligned with the cover stitch. So I've got that set up and I'm ready to go. All right, so to finish up this tutorial, let's stitch out the cover hem and see how it looks. So when you first start stitching, put fabric under your needles, and it does say in the Baby Lock manual that you can serge off the edge of a fabric when you're doing the chain or cover stitches. Personally, I like to just create a little stitch pad to stitch on and off of, because it just prevents any thread breakage or little issues that can happen when you chain off your fabric sometimes. I mean, most of the time it works fine, but I've gotten used to using a stitch pad because my other serger I had before this one, you couldn't stitch off the fabric. So let me show you this. Let's just stitch it and see what happens. My stitch length is at 2.5. All right, so I'm at the end of my seam. I'm just going to stick this extra fabric here, stitch onto it so I can cut off my project fabric. So from the right side, you can see I have my left needle is ivory, my right needle is green. If we look at the back, the looper thread is blue. Now what you should be seeing here is little dots for your needles and a nice V shape for your looper. So my looper looks okay, but you can see that my needle threads are too loose because they're pulling really big loops. And the whole stitch doesn't look snug, so I think it's the needles that are too loose. So I'm going to adjust my needle tension from 5 to 7, and let's see if that fixes it. So I'm just going to start stitching again. I'm just going to stick my stitch pad under there again. And let's see if our tension is better. Okay, so notice this time the tension is much better. I just see little loops where my needles are. I may need to play with it a little bit more. It's better. I may need to hike it up a little bit more. Let's try moving it up to 7.5. I think I can get that to look a little nicer. Okay, stitch pad. All right, let's check this last row of stitching and see how it looks. Yep, I think that that looks much better. So you can see the 3 versions here. Okay, the first one, my tension was at 5. I moved it to 7. Then at 7.5, it looks perfect. Okay, so that's how you adjust your tension if your needle threads are too loose. Okay, if the looper thread is too loose, you can turn the dial for the chain looper closer to the chain stitch, and that will tighten it up a little bit. But I find that usually my issue is with my needles. So that's how you adjust the tension to get a good stitch on your cover hem. And this will work no matter which cover stitch you're using. So if you're using the 3-thread narrow, the 3-thread wide, or the triple cover hem, you can make these adjustments to fix your stitch quality. The last thing I want to talk about is the knee lift. So the instructions for how to insert the knee lift are on page 17 of the instruction manual. And literally, you just stick it in the knee lifter slot over here on the right, and you can use it to lift the presser foot by pushing it with your knee to the right, and then letting it go back to its original position to put the presser foot back down. So I apologize for not having my knee lifter to physically show you how to do it, but if you're having trouble inserting the knee lift into the hole, you know, maybe visually look in there and see if there's anything in there. You can use a Q-tip to clean the hole out to make sure there's nothing in there preventing the knee lift from being inserted into the slot. I hope that helps. And again, I apologize that I don't have my knee lift handy to show you how to do it. I hope you enjoyed this serger tutorial, I will add it to the playlist I have for the Baby Lock Ovation serger. If you own an Evolution or a Triumph, many of the things that I share in this playlist will apply to your serger as well. If you have any questions about threading your serger for a cover hem, please post them below and I will help you. And I just want to thank all of you for following along with me and watching my tutorials. I really enjoy sharing different techniques here on my channel. And if you weren't following along with me, I'd be talking to myself. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.